Hello, this is Chase McKinney. Please be advised that the messages discussed in this podcast are of a mental health nature. While I am a counselor, I am not your counselor. This podcast should not replace professional services rendered to you by a mental health professional. If you feel you are in need of one, please seek one out. Hey, what's happening, y'all? It has been a long time. I'm ready to jump back in and let's have a fun conversation. Like I said, it's been a little while, and you've probably forgotten who I am. So I'm Chase McKinney. I'm your host. I'm happy to be back on this adventure with you. There's been a lot that's happened, and I apologize for there being such a break. So for all intents and purposes, welcome to season 2. I don't even know if podcasts even have a season 1, season 2, season 3. They have multiple seasons like TV shows do. Anyway, glad to be back. We're going to be talking about some interesting things today. At least I think they're kind of interesting. And this is something that's fairly personal to me in the sense that, this story of sorts, this content that we're going to be talking about, both in the news and in the actual reframed portion, is pretty much resonating with me in terms of what's been going on lately. And I'll explain more about that once we get to it. So don't worry, all is well. Nothing bad. Don't worry about it. You can go get your Snuggie right now and get comfortable before we dive in. So what's been going on? So it's been a little while. I can't even remember how long it's been. Just kidding. It's been since about February, I believe. And here we are. So since we last met and got to talk about stuff, I've been extremely swamped with school and work and just life in general. I've had a very, very, very busy semester at Regent. Currently doing practicum, or almost done with practicum. That's what I've been doing this semester. And for those of you that don't know, practicum is an experience that you go through in a graduate or professional training program, such as counseling, where you're doing more or less hands-on training, an application of theory and skill with real-life people. So this isn't something that's new to me. Practicum is something that I'm pretty sure every single counseling student, mental health student, will do in their graduate training, their professional training. And that's what I've been doing. And the thing that's been kind of cool about this semester with the practicum that I've been doing has been related to having to implement, new skills or working with different demographics, things of that nature. And that's what I've been doing. Typically, whenever I'm doing therapy with people, I usually come at it from what's called an Adlerian perspective, Adlerian theoretical orientation. And if you want to have a conversation, offline, either on social media or something like that, we can talk about that and what that means. But because I've been doing stuff related to Adlerian in the past, I had to do something different. So I chose a different theoretical orientation that I've been wanting to learn more about. So that's why I chose something called CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, or therapies. And it seems like everyone, their grandmother loves this thing in therapy. And it's just confused me for a while for some reason. And I've taken, these last handful of months, 3-4 months that I've been doing practicum to, study it, to learn more about it, and to apply it. And I'm actually, thankfully, I'm back at where I was with my practicum, my master's program, a place called Dallas Life. It's a homeless shelter, and it's been great. I've been given plenty of opportunity to work with clients and to apply this training, but also, still use some of the stuff that I've used in the past, like with Adlerian and genograms and rational motive and logotherapy type of things. But anyway, that's not really what you want to hear about in terms of professional stuff. I feel like I'm jumping the gun. That's okay. The last few months, apart from school, I've been having a lot of fun with photo editing, with taking pictures, with doing a lot of Star Trek things, dressing up as Commander William Riker or Captain William Riker from Star Trek: The Next Generation, taking lots of pictures, having fun with that on my cosplay Instagram page. So if you want to see how far my nerdiness can go, check it out, Sharp Cosplay on Instagram. Now, recently, my wife and I, we binged Game of Thrones, and it was funny because I started watching Game of Thrones about 2 years ago, around this time, when we had HBO for free, and I didn't realize how far I got when my wife decided that she wanted to watch it most recently. She'd never seen it. She's like, I really like Emilia Clarke. She's got this beautiful smile, and I just want to see it. I'm curious about it. So I think we watched the first 2 seasons in a week, and then we were about, a season a week. And shout out to my friend Rachel for letting us watch it on her account. We have HBO now, so we can watch that and binge it over and over again if we want to. But it's fantastic. That is a phenomenal show. We watched the season 8 premiere, and I don't know what to think next, like what's going to happen next with all these characters with Game of Thrones, and who's going to end up on the Iron Throne, who's not. I'll create a poll here in a second, and we'll see who you think is going to end up on the Iron Throne at the end of it. What your predictions are for who's going to live, who's going to die, that sort of thing. I really hope that Jon ends up on the Iron Throne. I'm torn between Jon and Dany, just because Dany's, like, her character development over the past 7 seasons and now beginning of the 8th season has just been phenomenal. And I don't know what to expect or what to think. I kind of feel like I'm betraying Dany a little bit because I want Jon to be on the Iron Throne, but just not Cersei. Please, not Cersei. That's just me. Anyways, I'll stop talking about Game of Thrones, and we'll talk about Game of Thrones maybe in the next episode some more, and maybe some thoughts and plans that I have about some Game of Thrones related geek culture type of stuff. So anyways, we'll go from there. Moving on, so Channel 49 News, there was an article that was published on April 12th of 2019, and it was found in Forbes, and the name of the article is "Our Home Offices Fueling a Mental Health Crisis." Now, this is something that, as I was reading, it was very striking for me, in the sense that it was kind of hitting on some things that have been really affecting me, impacting me in a personal way. As you might have already known, I am doing, whatever you want to call it, work with the state of Texas. I'm a contractor through a private group based out of Rockwall, Texas. And part of that work has me driving all over Texas, mainly East Texas. Usually I'm driving between an hour to 2 hours one way to get to each of these locations. And it is very lonely doing all that driving and then getting to these places and not being able to truly do counseling. And when I say truly do counseling, I mean the traditional, stereotypical talk therapy type of stuff that you kind of expect with a counselor. I am a mental health professional, and that's a pretty broad thing, and I can do a lot of different things. And with the Ludden Group, the place that I've been working, it's it's been very beneficial in the sense that it's given me a lot of experience, a lot of development related to clinical skills. So interviewing, diagnosing, administering psychological tests or assessments, whatever you want to call them. It's been wonderful, and that's one thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to stop myself right there. Um, I am no longer an LPC intern. I am a fully licensed professional counselor. I'm an LPC in the state of Texas, and it is pretty awesome. So, very happy, very thankful to be done with my internship. It was awesome, but it's done and over with now. I don't have the training wheels on anymore. I'm able to go do my own thing, and there we are. So, very exciting stuff. So yes, I'm an LPC. I'm a licensed professional counselor now. So, anyways, my experience doing these things, this contract work, driving all over the place and not being able to be a counselor has been pretty lonely, pretty isolating at times, depressing at times, stressful certainly, and that's definitely where the whole self-care bit has to come into play. And that's where my whole geek culture stuff and podcasting and wood burning, spending time with my friends, with my cohort at Regent. Very thankful for each and every one of them, especially my wife and my daughter, for bringing so much joy to my life. And anyways, over the last, I don't know how long, for a while, I'll just say that, for a while, I have been trying to figure out how can I work closer to home. I mean, I just did my taxes fairly recently for 2018, and I drove over 40,000 miles in 2018. And I think of the 40,000, about 27,000 were all business-related miles that I was doing for the group. And that's a lot of miles to be putting on a car in a year. I mean, most people don't even put 10,000 miles in a year. So the fact that I almost tripled that is pretty wild. So a friend of mine helped me out and pointed out a couple different practices closer to where I live that are hiring. And anyways, I will be, let me back up. He pointed out a couple of them to me, and interviewed at both these places, and one of them just would have been fairly similar to what I was doing in terms of not as much driving, but I'd still be doing driving probably 25 to 30% of the time, and that's still a lot of driving. I'd be driving 115 miles one way twice a week, and that's a lot. That's 460 miles a week. Just in commute to a far location that I just couldn't get on board with. It wouldn't have been good for my wife and I, for my family and I. So this other place I took a real chance because it's not was initially even really considering because of the nature of the work. My friend is working at a place where it's a residential treatment center for adolescents with substance abuse issues, and when I found out that they treat it more like just counseling more than anything else, just talk therapy, and that's a dual diagnosis place, I started to really think about it more, pray about it more, consider it more, and I was more and more okay with it. And I went to the interview, I did my homework on the place, and then about a week or so later, 10 days later, I got an offer, and it felt great. For someone to want to hire you. And I was excited to join the team. I mean, it sits on, I think, like 30 or 40 acres, so I can literally walk through the woods and do therapy with these folks. So I'll be doing individual therapy, group therapy, and family therapy with these young men and their families. So I'm very excited about that. And it's only a few minutes from my house. So I'm pretty excited about that. Very excited about that. So I'll be starting that here fairly soon, and I can't wait to see what happens as a result. So stay tuned, and I'll be happy to tell you more as I start and get acclimated to this new position. So there we are. Now back to the article with what I was saying, that our home office is fueling a mental health crisis. The work that I'm doing with the Ludden Group, that I'm about to end with the Ludden Group, it's basically been home office type of stuff. And like with home offices and being able to pretty much work wherever you want to, like, lay your head for the most part, it gives you a certain degree of freedom, but it also can cause some more issues. So it can solve some crises in terms of, like, being able to house a number of employees or workers that you might have. But in this article, it states that when asked about the downside of location flexibility, 49% of remote workers note that their biggest struggle is wellness related. More specifically, 22% can't unplug after work, 19% feel lonely, and 8% can't stay motivated. And it goes on to talk about the number of subjective influencers, such as management style of the bosses, local connection speed, things like that. And then towards the end, it says, any remote worker will tell you that replacing suits with slippers is a liberating transition. However, it seems as though the confining corporate cubicle that we are so anxious to escape may actually be boosting our behavioral health. Dr. Amy Service, manager of clinical quality at Talkspace, reports remote workers often experience symptoms of anxiety and depression at a higher rate than people commuting into traditional office spaces. Specifically, they report feelings of isolation and loneliness and high rates of worry about job performance and stability. Insomnia and sleep disturbance are common, along with increased fatigue, irritation, sadness, and feelings of disconnection. Remote workers report a lack of concentration and focus that can compound and exacerbate these mental health challenges. It can lead to a loss of self-worth and questioning of one's abilities. Combined together, these symptoms can have a significant impact on job performance, job satisfaction, and the efficiency of productive work. Now, that's not to say that if you have, this job that you're doing, where you're working from home or you're working from, like, an airplane or something like that, you're flying all over the world being a globetrotter. Nothing wrong with that. It's I think the piece that they're really trying to get at is this connection with other human beings, and that it's important for us to be connected with each other, not isolated from one another. So if that means maybe having like a group work session somewhere where you, like, I don't know, just set up like a canopy and you work outside together once a week, that could be something. Whether it's going to networking luncheons that your local Chamber of Commerce might have, or being part of like a Rotary or a Lions Club or something, like an Optimist Club, whatever it might be, that can be beneficial to your overall health, your mental health, and your health as a professional, in terms of the depression, the anxiety, the loneliness, the things that were brought up in this article. And what I'll do is I'll copy the link and I'll put it in our Facebook group, and I'll also blast it out on Twitter. So if anyone wants to take a closer look at it, you can do that. Now, with that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into this next piece. And today will probably be a shorter episode, I think. I say that now, watch will go like 3 hours or something. But this part of Reframed is going to be connected to my practicum experience that I've had this semester with a particular client. Now, this client's name, it's not going to be their real name. It'll be Fred for the sake of this conversation. And it's really cool how, this whole show, it started because of something at Dallas Life so many years ago when I was in my master's program, and how it's come full circle right now with another podcast pop culture, meaning making type of thing. And we'll get into that in a second. So earlier I said that both the news and the session both have this personal impact on me. Today we're going to be talking about Superman, the comic book character Superman. He's had comics, he's had movies, he's had TV shows. Various actors have portrayed him on screen, both in movies and television. And I can remember growing up that Superman was my favorite character. I mean, that was the one that I saw the most. My favorite comic book character. That was the one that I saw the most, and never really knew much about Marvel. And it seems like kind of funny that I've kind of switched, and I'm now part of the Marvel camp and not much on the DC camp. Please don't shoot me for that. But I used to love watching all the old cartoons from, I think, like probably the 40s, and whenever they were, like I used to watch black and white Superman cartoons. Some of I don't even know when they were. I wish I knew when they were, but they were even the S on his chest didn't even look the same as it does now. It was like a black shield with the S, and it was just really cool. I really liked those old cartoons, and really enjoyed and loved the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. I think to this day, my favorite Superman has to be Dean Cain from Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. When that came out in the 90s, I used to watch that religiously with my mom, or she watched it with me, one of the two. And I loved that show. And Dean Cain is, for me, the ultimate Superman. And then right after that, it's Christopher Reeve. And anyways, I've loved it. Loved it. Great. Now, that's not the personal part for me. It's the fact that that this stuff hits kind of close to home for me because of alcoholism in my family history. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't drink alcohol. I've had some in the past, and I don't like it. It's nasty. I just think it's nasty. And if you drink alcohol, please drink responsibly. But I don't like alcohol at all. But alcoholism is something that is in my family's history on my mother's side, and it's something that I take very seriously. And if you ask me and I say no, just be respectful of it, just as I'll be respectful of you. But if you're, like I said, if you're going to drink alcohol, please drink alcohol responsibly. Now, when I first started meeting with Fred, Fred had been in the program at Dallas Life for about a month, maybe 2 months, thereabouts, and he had a whole slew of complicated health issues that he was trying to deal with. And he was telling me that there was this issue with alcohol that he was having, as well as I believe he also said cocaine. And whenever I'm with a client, and to any counselors or counselor educators or current counseling students that are listening to this, I would urge you to, apart from the building of the rapport and the therapeutic alliance that we're supposed to be doing effectively with our clients, I would encourage you to try and find ways that you can connect with them to create more meaning with them. And that goes back to what originally happened long time ago with that client of mine, also at Dallas Life, where he was the comic book person, liked to draw things. And the one time that we had a breakthrough. The major breakthrough for him was whenever we started talking about Lord of the Rings and how he described himself as Frodo and myself as Sam, and how he didn't feel like he could carry it anymore. I told him, I can't carry it, but I can carry you, much the same way that, Sam said, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. Whenever Frodo's freaking exhausted there on the cliffside of Mount Doom. So if you can create meaning with your clients, then do your best to do it. Not every client's going to understand a pop culture reference. I understand that, and I'm assuming the people listening to this know that as well. But if it's not that, if it's like, understanding the process of fishing, or it's understanding the process of, learning to ride a bike or something, I don't know. I'm pulling stuff out of nowhere right now. That can be a way that we can connect with the people that we're trying to help in the therapy room. Now, this person, I found out that, with their alcohol use and their cocaine use, that they hated it, that it was like this weakness for them. And in the meantime, they were telling me that, one of their favorite cartoon characters is what they said. Their favorite cartoon characters was Superman. And I grabbed onto that, and I hung on to that for a little while we were in session. And I started asking, I was like, hey, Fred, on Krypton, it's my understanding on Krypton that, the kryptonite, the gem, the crystal, whatever you want to call it, it's not harmful to them. Because that's there. It's not harmful because they're in a different area, they're in a different context, they're in a different whatever. So it's not going to harm them so much in the same way that it would if it were on Earth, for example. Now, Superman, his real name is Kal-El, and the planet explodes, but his parents get him on a spaceship, and he zooms off to Earth, where he's raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent, I believe is their name. And later on in life, the kryptonite proves to be very deadly and poisonous, very harmful to Clark, his alter ego, Superman, Kal-El. That it becomes very dangerous and harmful to him. And as I was explaining that to my client Fred, he's like, I kind of see where you're going with this. I'm like, okay, where am I going with this? He's like, well, it's harmful. It's harmful to me. I'm like, yeah, but what else? And he kind of just stayed there. I'm like, at one point in your life, this thing, so we'll call your cocaine use, it wasn't something that you were really considering or really thinking about. Yes, it was harmful, but it wasn't. You didn't really consider it to be bad, so to speak. It was just something that you're used to, something that you're around. But now that you're in a different setting, you're in a different space and time of your life, it's really messing with you. And this is very harmful to you. And it can cause some very significant problems for you with your cocaine use, but also your use of alcohol and combining them together. And I was like, and Superman, he just has to go and bask under a yellow sun. So we have a yellow sun here on Earth, so he just has to go hang out and let the rays of the sun recharge him and re-energize him. And he has to get away from it. He just has to get better by being around the light. He has to be better by getting under the sun. And I was like, Fred, it seems like you have this big old brick of kryptonite. And I was thinking of the 1970s or 80s Superman, where Christopher Reeve's Superman has this big old necklace of kryptonite, like with a big old gold chain around his neck, and he's pushed into the pool, and he's going to drown. That was literally the type of kryptonite I was looking at. So if you've never seen that version, so the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, check it out. I was like, but Fred, it seems like you have this big chain, this big brick chain of kryptonite around your head, around your neck, and you're having trouble getting it off. So how can we get this off, and what is the sun that we need to get you under? And it was really cool to see him really start to think, to start to process these feelings that he's had about his addiction, and how he knows and is coming to the realization that he knows that things need to change, and that not only is this cocaine and this alcohol a form of kryptonite for him, but he started to think who these Lex Luthors are in his life, as he, thinks of himself as, Clark Kent and Superman, like these alter egos that he has, and how he is able to start identifying these triggers for what makes him go back to these substances that are very harmful for him, that he didn't think much of before. Again, back when he was on Krypton, back when my client was back on Krypton, versus now whenever he's here on Earth, so to speak. Just if you can follow that little image, that little story with me for a second. So I guess the thing to think of is, whether it's substance or not, what stuff do you have in your life that's holding you down? Is it a past trauma, a past hurt? Is it something that has to do with either a strained, a distant, or a failed relationship? Is there someone that is feeding this? Is there someone that is the dealer that has the kryptonite, whatever that kryptonite is for you, that's putting it in your pocket, or that's putting it around your neck, and it's draining you? Whatever that is, I would encourage you to find the strength within you to take that necklace off, to remove that kryptonite, and to bask in the sun, that life-giving stuff of yours, whatever's life-giving for you, whether that's being surrounded by people that you go to church with, whether that's people that share similar interests with you that are life-giving, not life-taking. Whether that's acting, singing, running, exercising, wood burning, whatever it might be, what is life-giving for you? I want you to think about that, and I want you to pursue that. It doesn't have to be a daily thing. If you can do it once a week, a couple times a week, go for it. But you need to be taking care of yourself and getting rid of those things. It's not an overnight process. Most of these things related to substance abuse and chemical dependency, it's related to a past trauma, past hurt. And it's not an overnight thing. Just like the trauma and the abuse, the dependency, just like that wasn't an overnight thing, this isn't either. But you can start today to fix that, to remedy that, and to make, this next year a better year than last year. So what can you do now to make that a reality? And the reason that I go through all this is that, between the loneliness and the things that I talked about, both with the place that I was working and then the article, I think it's great that this information of this article and then this portion of Reframed is directly connected with what I'm going to be doing. I'm going from being in a very lonely, isolated place to going to a place where I get to work with teenagers. I love working with teenagers and adolescents. And I get to help them talk about and overcome like this trauma, these past hurts that they've had. So, don't ever give up on yourself. If no one believes in you, I want you to know that I believe in you, that I love you, and that you are worthy, and that you are capable of doing all things that you set your mind to. So I love you. I believe in you. You can do this. You got this. If you don't have a counselor and you feel like you need one, don't wait another day. Go find one. If you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, you can look me up and we can talk and see if it'd be a good fit. But just know that you are lovable, you are capable, and your past does not define you. So that's it for today. I know that kind of ended on a very heavy and somber note, but I'm very excited. I'm very excited about what this next chapter of my professional career is going to look like. I'm almost done with my first year of school at Regent University. So very excited about that. I've got some great people in my corner, both with mainly my cohort. My cohort's awesome, but my professors are amazing too. So very thankful for Dr. Williams, who's been a rock for our program. So thank you, Dr. Williams, if you ever listen to this, either presently or way down in the future. Thank you so much, sir. Other than that, that's it, y'all. So we'll get the next episode out here in the next couple weeks and, go from there. So if you have suggestions for shows, make sure that you send me an email, a tweet, comment on the page of either some pop culture type stuff, some media stuff that you'd like to hear covered, maybe some ideas of like the topic that it would relate to. And in fact, if you want to help co-host an episode, we have a way of doing that. I have a way of doing that. I'd be happy to make it happen. So that's all I got, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, if you want to follow us, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ReframePod. If you want to send an email, a suggestion, a comment, whatever it might be, make sure you send it to reframepod@gmail.com. And as always, take care and stay dapper. Bye-bye.